Let me ask you something that most leaders try to avoid. Have you ever walked into your business and felt, disconnected from your own team? Like something was just kind of off. But it's not loud, it's not obvious, just off. Maybe the energy dipped, or maybe you ever heard a comment that made you pause. Maybe you caught yourself thinking, you know what, this isn't what I meant when I said I wanted to grow. That moment, that's culture drift. And it doesn't come with a press release, and it doesn't show up on your P&L immediately. It doesn't crash down like a broken system. It creeps in quietly and softly in the spaces that you just stop paying attention to. Now, culture isn't a slogan. It's not your values framed on the wall, and it's not the team going somewhere off-site. It's not how often you say you care about your people. Culture is how your team behaves when you're not in the room. It's how decisions get made when no one's even watching. And it's how conflict gets handled when you're not there to referee. It's what people believe they're allowed to do, say, and act, and expect because of what's been modeled, reinforced, and tolerated over time. Now, here's the hard part. If you're not actively designing it, you're still building it. Because culture happens, whether you mean it to or not. It happens in the silence, and it happens in the shortcuts. It happens in the tension that you didn't address, or the accountability that you didn't hold, or even the compliment that you forgot to give, and definitely the toxic behavior that you justified as, we'll do it just this once. Now, every leader has a culture, even if they don't have a plan for it. And in the absence of intentional design, culture will always default to comfort, ego, fear, or hierarchy. And it will mirror whatever is the loudest or safest or the most rewarded. Now, if you're seeing team behavior that you don't love, it's not a people problem, it's a pattern. And patterns don't fix themselves. They have to get named, they have to get shifted, and they have to get rebuilt with clarity. Now, that's what step 4 in empowerment design is all about, cultural cohesion by design. Because without culture, your business just becomes a series of disconnected people doing disconnected tasks. And you feel it, right? You feel it when the goals stall because ownership is shallow. You feel it when no one speaks up in meetings, even when something's clearly off. And you feel it when your people nod to your vision, but don't carry it with them once the meeting ends. You feel it when you wonder if your team actually believes in what you're building, or if they're just showing up for the paycheck. Here's the hardest part to say out loud. You can build a team of good people and still end up with a dysfunctional culture. Because culture isn't about intent alone, it's about design. You can't assume alignment, you actually have to build it. You can't assume accountability. You have to model it, install it, reinforce it, and yes, you have to require it. And that doesn't happen from the outside in, it happens from the inside out. Because it starts with you. What you allow, what you ignore, what you celebrate, and what you actually make clear. Because the culture you carry is the culture that you create. Let me illustrate this with a story. A few years ago, I worked with a founder. We're going to call him Ethan. And he ran a successful creative firm, talented team, really good revenue, loyal clients. From the outside, it looked like serious momentum. But when I sat down with him privately, he looked tired, not just physically tired, but like soul tired. And he told me, I feel like I'm dragging the vision up a hill every single day. Now, he wasn't mad at his team. He liked him, they liked him, but there's something that wasn't clicking. Everyone showed up on time, work got done, deadlines were hit, but there was no real ownership, no fire, and no buy-in beyond the very basics. Now, the vision, it wasn't spreading, it was stalling. Here's what we found. The team didn't lack talent. They lacked clarity. They didn't know what decisions they were actually allowed to make. They didn't know what their founder actually expected when he said things like, move faster or take initiative. They had never seen what excellence looked like through his eyes, so they played it safe and they deferred. They waited. And Ethan, unknowingly, was reinforcing that pattern by staying vague. He didn't want to be a micromanager, so he defaulted to soft requests, hints, hopes. But vague expectations create invisible pressure. And invisible pressure erodes culture faster than conflict ever could. So we rebuilt. We got specific about what ownership meant in that company. We defined what good actually looked like, and we created a feedback loop that was clear and not personal. We gave every team member visibility into their impact and permission to lead inside their role. And slowly things started to shift. People stopped waiting for approval. They started pitching new ideas, and they held each other to a much higher standard. Ethan, he stopped dragging the vision uphill because now his team was carrying it with him. Now that's what cultural cohesion looks like. It's when your team doesn't just understand your vision, they live it, they breathe it, and they build it into every interaction, every system, every decision. Now, this doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you choose to architect your culture with as much intentionality as you do with your pricing, your marketing, and your operations. It happens when you see culture not as an outcome, but as a system. The same way you build flow in your processes, you build flow in your values. You codify what matters, and you install rhythms of reinforcement. You make what's invisible, visible. And when you do, culture becomes a multiplier, not a mystery. Let me tell you about another client. Service-based business with around 20 employees. Now the owner came to me frustrated, saying things like, "No one thinks like an owner. I'm the only one who cares about the client experience." Sound familiar? Now that's a red flag wrapped in a confession. So we of course dug deeper, and it turned out he never actually said what ownership looked like. He told stories, he encouraged people, but he had never drawn the line clearly. So we sat down with the leadership team and we co-created a decision map, and we outlined 3 core cultural non-negotiables. We built language around what the company's values looked like in real behavior, and we installed a 15-minute Monday morning ritual, just 15 minutes, 3 questions that recentered the team every week around ownership, integrity, and initiative. Now within a month, the owner told me, "For the first time, I feel like I'm not alone in caring about this." That's culture, not posters, not pizza parties. Participation. When people feel seen, trusted, and responsible for what they help shape, they just show up differently. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need a huge team to design culture. You can do this with 3 people in a garage. You can do it with 2 subcontractors in a truck. And you can do it with a remote team spread out over 3 time zones. Because culture isn't a headcount issue, it's a clarity issue. And the question is, are you being intentional with what you're building, or are you just hoping that it takes care of itself? Because it won't. Culture is always being built. If not by you, then by your silence. And in a growing business, silence can never be neutral. When you grow fast, you don't design for cohesion, you get fragmentation, and you get inside jokes that become inside clicks. You get decision making that gets shaped by pressure, not principle. And you get well-meaning people making messy calls that you then have to go clean up. And the bigger you get, the harder it is to reverse. But if you build it now, if you choose clarity now, if you name the invisible threads that are shaping your business every single day, you don't just build a team that knows what you expect. You build a team that becomes your culture keepers. And that's the real goal at the end of the day. Not just compliance, belief. Not just policy, a pulse. A heartbeat that doesn't just beat when you're in the room, but when it sustains itself through people who live it, own it, and protect it because it actually means something to them. That's what we're doing in this step of empowerment design. We're not putting up posters. We're building something that lasts. Because your team is not just your workforce. They're your ripple force. And when culture actually clicks, the ripple reaches farther, faster, and with way more force than you ever could on your own. Now that's the shift from chaos to cohesion, from drift to design. And it starts with choosing to name what matters. Then you can go have that pizza party. Now let me close with this today. If your business doesn't feel like the kind of place you dreamt of leading, don't wait for it to shift on its own. Own the design, own the culture, own the ripple that you want to send out. Because culture is not something you fix once it's broken. It's something you build before it can ever break. And if you've never built it with intention, Today is your moment to begin, right now. You can start today because culture isn't complicated. It's just under-designed. So let's change that. DM me the word culture if you want the culture architecture tool that we use inside Empowerment Design. It'll walk you through how to define, install, and protect the culture that you actually want without the noise of the pretense. And the next live coming up on Friday, we're going to get real tactical. How do you design culture that lives beyond you? One that scales, sticks, and becomes self-sustaining. That's where we're going to go next. Because your culture should not depend on your presence. It should thrive on your design. So let's build what lasts together. Let's go out and make the changes. Come back on Friday. We'll get tactical, we'll get real, and we'll get it installed in your business. I'll see you then.